Have you ever wondered what it truly takes to perform at the absolute edge of human capability, where a single mistake can mean the difference between life and death? It's easy to imagine that world-class surgeons spend all of their time in operating rooms, practicing procedures, studying anatomy, and refining their techniques with scalpels and surgical tools. And while that's certainly true, there's another, far less obvious training ground that some of the best surgeons in the world are now turning to, one that looks nothing like a hospital. It's loud, it's fast, it's intense, and it's built for speed. High-performance racing simulators. At first glance, the connection seems almost absurd. What could possibly link a surgeon performing a delicate operation inside the human body to a driver pushing the limits of control on a racetrack at 300 kilometers per hour? But when you peel back the surface, something remarkable begins to emerge. Beneath the tools, beneath the environments, beneath the professions themselves, both surgeons and elite drivers are solving the same problem: how to maintain perfect control in situations where the margin for error is almost zero. And that's where things get interesting, because when researchers, performance psychologists, and even surgeons themselves began analyzing what truly separates elite performers from the rest, they discovered something unexpected. It wasn't just knowledge, it wasn't just experience, and it wasn't even just technical skill, it was the brain. More specifically, it was how the brain processes information under pressure, how it translates perception into action, and how it maintains clarity when everything around it is demanding attention at once. This is what scientists refer to as cognitive performance under load. In simple terms, it's your ability to think clearly, react quickly, and act precisely when your brain is overwhelmed with information, stress, and time constraints. Now think about surgery. During a complex procedure, a surgeon must process visual information from monitors, interpret subtle changes in tissue, coordinate hand movements with extreme precision, and make critical decisions in real time. All of this happens while managing fatigue, stress, and the awareness that a mistake could have serious consequences. Now think about high-speed racing. A driver must interpret rapidly changing visual input, predict movement, react instantly to unexpected conditions, and control a machine traveling at extreme speeds. Every corner, every adjustment, every decision happens in fractions of a second. Different worlds, same demands, and racing simulators are designed to train exactly this kind of performance. Modern racing simulators are not just games. They are sophisticated systems built to replicate real-world driving conditions with astonishing accuracy. They simulate physics, motion, resistance, and visual depth in a way that forces the brain to behave as if it's in a real high-speed environment. When someone sits in one of these simulators, their brain doesn't treat it as play. It treats it as reality. Heart rate increases, focus sharpens, reaction times become critical, and this is exactly why surgeons are starting to use them, because these simulators create a unique training environment where the brain is pushed to operate at its highest level without any of the risks associated with real-world consequences. One of the first and most obvious benefits is improved hand-eye coordination. In many surgical procedures, especially minimally invasive ones, surgeons don't directly see what they are operating on. Instead, they rely on cameras and screens. They must interpret a two-dimensional image and translate it into precise three-dimensional movements using instruments. This is not intuitive. It requires training. Racing simulators place users in a similar situation. They must process visual information on a screen and translate it into precise physical inputs: steering, braking, acceleration, all while moving at high speed. Over time, this strengthens the neural pathways responsible for coordination. The brain becomes more efficient at converting visual data into motor action. And this is not just theory. Studies in neuroscience show that repeated exposure to these kinds of tasks enhances something called sensorimotor integration, the ability to combine sensory input with physical movement. For surgeons, this means smoother, more accurate movements, less hesitation, fewer errors, but coordination is only part of the equation. Reaction time is another critical factor. In surgery, unexpected complications can arise without warning: a sudden bleed, a change in tissue behavior, a shift in anatomy. The surgeon must recognize the problem and respond immediately. Even a delay of a fraction of a second can matter. Racing simulators are built around this exact principle. They constantly introduce variables, sharp turns, obstacles, changes in traction that force the user to react instantly. This trains the brain to process information faster, to prioritize what matters, to act without hesitation. Over time, the brain becomes more efficient at filtering out irrelevant information and focusing only on what is critical. This is known as selective attention, and it's one of the defining traits of elite performers. But perhaps the most powerful benefit of racing simulators is their ability to train focus. Not just ordinary focus, but deep, sustained concentration under pressure. In psychology, this state is often referred to as flow. It's a mental state where everything else fades away, and you become fully immersed in the task at hand. Time seems to slow down. Actions feel automatic. Performance becomes almost effortless. Athletes chase this state. Musicians chase it. Surgeons need it. And racing simulators are one of the most effective ways to trigger it. Because when you're navigating a track at high speed, your brain has no choice but to focus completely. There is no room for distraction, no space for wandering thoughts. It's just you, the environment, and the task. By repeatedly entering this state, surgeons can train their brains to access it more easily. And when they step into the operating room, they carry that ability with them. Now let's talk about stress, because no matter how skilled a surgeon is, stress is always present. The human body reacts to stress by releasing hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. These can enhance performance in short bursts, but they can also impair judgment, reduce fine motor control, and increase the likelihood of mistakes. The key is not to eliminate stress, but to manage it. This is where racing simulators become incredibly valuable. They create controlled stress environments. The user experiences urgency, pressure, and high stakes, but in a setting where failure has no real consequences. This allows the brain to adapt, to learn how to function under stress without being overwhelmed. This process is known as stress inoculation, and it's one of the most effective ways to build resilience. Over time, the brain becomes less reactive to stress. Heart rate stabilizes, breathing becomes more controlled, focus remains intact, and this translates directly into better performance in real-world situations. Another fascinating aspect is decision-making. In both surgery and racing, decisions must be made quickly and accurately. There is often no time for deliberation. The brain must rely on pattern recognition. It must identify situations based on past experience and respond accordingly. Racing simulators accelerate this process. They expose users to a wide range of scenarios in a short amount of time. Different tracks, different conditions, different challenges. This builds a mental library of experiences. So when a similar situation arises in real life, the brain can respond instantly. This is what experts call intuitive expertise. It's not guesswork. It's the result of thousands of repetitions, and simulators make those repetitions possible. Now consider adaptability. No two surgeries are exactly the same. Unexpected complications can arise at any moment. Surgeons must be able to adjust their approach quickly. Racing simulators are constantly changing. Weather conditions shift. Track surfaces vary. Opponents behave unpredictably. This forces the user to adapt in real time, to reassess, to adjust, to respond. And this trains cognitive flexibility, the ability to shift thinking and behavior as needed, which is essential in high-stakes environments. Then there's endurance. Some surgeries can last for hours. Maintaining peak performance for that long is incredibly demanding. Fatigue can slow reaction time, reduce accuracy, impair judgment. Racing simulators can be used to train mental endurance. Long sessions force the brain to sustain focus over time, to resist fatigue, to maintain performance even when tired. This builds mental stamina, which is critical for surgeons. And then there's neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself, to form new connections, to become more efficient. Every time you engage in a challenging task, your brain adapts. It strengthens the pathways that are used and weakens those that are not. Racing simulators provide a rich environment for this process. They challenge multiple systems at once: visual processing, motor control, decision-making, stress management. This leads to widespread improvements in brain function. And for surgeons, this means better overall performance. Now let's zoom out, because this isn't just about simulators. It's about a shift in how we think about training. For a long time, the assumption was that the best way to improve in a field was to train directly within that field. Surgeons train in operating rooms, drivers train on track, but now we're seeing that cross-disciplinary training can be incredibly powerful. Skills from one domain can enhance performance in another, because at a fundamental level, many high-performance activities rely on the same underlying abilities: focus, precision, decision-making, adaptability. By training these core skills in different environments, we can accelerate improvement. And technology is making this easier than ever. Modern simulators are becoming more advanced, more immersive, and more accessible. Virtual reality is adding new dimensions. Artificial intelligence is personalizing training. Data analytics is providing deeper insights. We're entering a new era of performance optimization, where the boundaries between disciplines are starting to blur, and where the goal is not just to practice a skill, but to upgrade the human operating system itself. So when you hear that world-class surgeons are using racing simulators, it's not a gimmick, it's not a trend, it's a reflection of a deeper understanding of how performance works. It's about recognizing that the brain is the most important tool we have, and that training it effectively can make the difference between good and great, between competent and exceptional, between saving a life and changing one. So the next time you picture a surgeon preparing for a complex operation, don't just imagine textbooks and surgical instruments. Imagine a racing cockpit, a high-speed track, a mind operating at its absolute limit, because in many ways, that's exactly what it takes to perform with precision, to stay focused under pressure, to make the right decision at the right moment, and ultimately to become world class.